Okay, so this is my how to finish anything in a cookie cutter, or I could even say how to finish anything in what I would call an irregular shape, meaning not a square, rectangle, or perfect circle, where you have to find that shape to know how to finish it. Mostly for ornaments, pin cushions. I do things in biscuit cutters. Just odd lid. I do things in lids, vintage things you find in the antique store. So I have done another bunny like the one that you will have seen in the pattern. So how to finish things in a cookie cutter. One, you need cookie cutters. And bunnies are still very easy to find in antique malls. I was in an antique mall end of last week, and I picked some other containers, and then just as a test, I went around and saw how many bunny cookie cutters I could find, and I found more than one. And then last weekend, I was up visiting one of my kids in a slightly larger town that had, like, their whole downtown had multiple antique malls. And I went into one of my favorites and I found multiple bunny cookie cutters. So if I make a pattern that says finish in a cookie cutter, I also look on Etsy to see how many people are selling, that cookie cutter at that time. I won't make a pattern that probably you can't find the cookie cutter. Your prices will be extremely less in antique malls to find cookie cutters than they would be if you just bought one off of Etsy. Both the larger town that was about 4 hours away in Colorado, and then my bigger town here that's not that big, they were averaging about $3 a cookie cutter. The ones that the turkeys, the horses, the bunnies, $3 to $4 is reasonable. If you get irregular ones that are tin from like the turn of the century, then those might be, could be $8, $9, $10 depending on how rare it is. But I won't be doing patterns for you to put in those cookie cutters. I do buy those cookie cutters to put my own original work in. So here, when I get enough ahead of the charts, the cross-stitch charts, I'm hoping that I'll be able to go back to doing my own original work in cookie cutters, and then I'll put those up on my Etsy shop as original work, with a chance if you're interested in those. But so you can see that the bunny comes in just the silvery aluminum, and then like a copper, I think it's still aluminum. I'm not 100% sure. If anybody has a better source of like a book about the history of cookie cutters, I would love to. What I know is from multiple sources, and it's not a lot. So one decision is what are you going to put it in? Using this as an example, I think the bunny part could go in either one. I think it has to do more with the flowers. You will notice there are no flowers on this one because I do the flowers on top of the cross stitch. After it's stitched, I use felt. So the flowers are a second step. And the reason I do that is you can do all kinds of embroidery work on a layer of cross stitch and 2 layers of wool without needing a hoop. You're not gonna squeeze your stitches too tight. So I think if you go silver or you go coppery color for the bunny, because you don't really have that much space where you see the sky behind. It has more to do with what colors you're going to choose to use. If you wanted to go lean more cool colors, I would say do the silver. Blues that lean purple, reds that lean purple. If you did blues that leaned green or aqua, but again, then you're talking about contrast. So, it kind of just depends on what you want to do. Because I have done one on a silver one, which this one, I picked reds. I picked reds because I had a red handle, and oranges I picked those colors. One thing I'll say is, like all vintage containers, go on Amazon and get one of the jars of lead test strips. Contrary to the Stanley cup users who are worried about if there's lead internally in the cup, in the base, that doesn't make contact with what you drink or touch. This you're touching. So I always like to take a little lead strip and test paint. You know, and it's $3. Like, you know, if it turns out it has lead, you can make your own decision, but just you're educated on if there's lead. And if definitely if things are kind of, I mean, because you love the kind of chipping finished look, but you want to make sure it doesn't have lead. Okay, so, but we will get to how to finish in another video. I'm going to do a playlist where there'll be multiple videos for you, so you don't have, if you want to go back and review something, you do not have to go through the whole video. So this is just the introduction on making the cookie cutter, how to find cookie cutters, testing with lead strips if you need to. Sometimes you'll get one that has literally cake flour in the corners. So, you know, I don't clean them until I use them, and then I'll you know, give it a little wash with some hot soapy water. Air dry, definitely give it a couple days to dry, just in the air. What you need to do this first part, I'm not going to go through I'll go through materials for how to do this in a different video. But how to just start this, you need some very clear, so I can see this is bleeding, I'm not being clear enough. There's clearer tracing paper. And sometimes I just go on and on about it being tissue paper, but if I say tissue paper, I mean tracing paper. You need a square big enough for your cookie cutter. You need some tape. You need a pencil. You'll need some felt. And I do like 100% wool felt. I kind of try and stay away from anything acrylic. It's just icky to work with, and I don't enjoy it. So, so your felt background is like, I mean, it's one of those things you probably will never see, but you just have to, I'm kind of liking the muted felt, the little more muddy felt, the little more leaning yellowy felt. This is kind of all leaning kind of warm to me a little bit. So you need a piece of felt that, again, is big enough for your cookie cutter. I do save, and what you're going to do is you're going to sandwich. Where did it go? You need some kind of a fusible web that has a paper on one side. So you're going to, you know, iron that on and then peel it off, and then you'll iron this to this. So you need a scrap of fusible web, and you need, what else do you need? You need a very good pair of scissors that has a very good pair of scissors that has a very pointy that you can snip. So I actually use these, which are just, I bought at the quilt shop, Karen K. Buckley. And then I also use my Japanese scissors, which I need to clean up because I got something on them. But if you notice, both of them have, and these are actually really good scissors too. These are just Fiskars. I keep these in my thing that I stitch with. But see how very pointed and, you know, very pointed they are. The worst thing, you know, expensive scissors, these are very expensive. These aren't. They're both just as good. Yes, I said that. These are just as good as these. The killer for scissors is dropping them straight down, and chef knives, because I've destroyed a couple chef knives, is this alignment of these points. And I think once they're ruined, they're ruined. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so scissors, fusible web, your pattern, your cookie cutter, tissue paper, some kind of a pencil, you know, like I like mechanical pencils.